we went with a two wide receiver, one tight end, one fullback, and one running back set there. Obviously, the Ravens have been throughout the history a pretty solid running first team going way back. So a lot of very tough decisions for me starting. Let's start right at quarterback. There's really two choices. Did you pick Flacco or did you pick Lamar Jackson? I picked Lamar Jackson. Flacco has the accolades behind him in terms of bringing his team to a Super Bowl. He had an incredible Super Bowl run. Lamar has the MVP. Lamar is still on a rookie contract, and I don't think we've seen even a hint of what this kid can do. So I picked Lamar as my quarterback. My running back, here's where I might take a little flack from Ravens Nation. And again, like if you guys are listening to this and you're like, you're stupid, Steve, how could you have picked that guy? Please feel free to put me on alert on Twitter. I picked Ray Rice as my running back. And so a lot of people would have picked Jamal Lewis, rushing for over 2,000 yards. I just think because of all the negative attention that Ray Rice deservedly got, not trying to sugarcoat that part of it, from a PR standpoint, I would not have picked him. But his last year with the Ravens, he was only 26 years old. He was just getting into he still had 5-6 more years of big productive years left. He had almost 10,000 all-purpose yards in 6 years. He had 1 year where he had 78 receptions. He had a second year where he had 76 receptions. He was the wildest dual threat running back we had seen quite possibly since LaDainian Tomlinson. He was putting up touchdowns. His 2014 year, he had 15 touchdowns. He had 1,364 rushing yards and another 704 receiving yards. He was unbelievable. From just a pure football perspective, he was absolutely unbelievable. And like I said, he only played until he was 26, where Jamal Lewis obviously went to Cleveland after and played until he was 30. So I have Ray Rice there. I picked fullback because the Ravens have had a lineage of very awesome fullbacks. And a lot of people probably are thinking maybe a Kyle Juszczyk. I'm picking you might not even know who this is, but LeRon McClain. Yeah. He was an absolute bruiser. I could have picked a Vontae Leach, who was also a bruiser. The difference with LeRon McClain, which, fun fact, he's actually cousins with Rolando McClain, who is an Alabama linebacker. In 2004, LeRon McClain, Willis McGahee was their running back at the time, and he was always dinged up or had little nagging injuries. LeRon McClain, as a fullback, stepped in and had 902 rushing yards. Imagine having a fullback on your team that all of a sudden was like, yeah, that's okay, I can step in, has 902 rushing yards, put up another 19 receptions as a fullback, 19 receptions for 123 yards. He had 10 rushing touchdowns and 1 receiving yards. Again, as a fullback that just got the rock because of circumstance. So I picked LeRon McClain. 2 wide receivers. This one was quite tough again. Honestly, I did my O and my D today. I had a lot more trouble with my O. I picked Anquan Bolden as my one receiver. He was with the Ravens for only 3 years, but he was such a pivotal part of that Ravens Super Bowl run. He just was everything a Raven embodied. He's tough. He's physical. Anytime you needed a first down, he was your guy to go to. And the other wide receiver I picked was Derek Mason. Again, he spent 6 years with Baltimore, had I want to say 4,000 or 5,000 yard season. So he put up all the numbers. So I picked him as my other wide receiver. For tight end, I think a lot of newer Ravens fans are going to say Mark Andrews. Maybe some of them say Dennis Pitta, but the real answer here is Todd Heap. Everyone loves Todd Heap. If you were too young to know who Todd Heap is, got to go back and watch some of that stuff. Very underrated Raven. For their offensive line, left tackle, I have Jonathan Ogden. It's a no-brainer. He's a Hall of Famer. The first draft pick in team history, lives up to expectation. Like, it's a storybook ending. For their left guard, here's where I was like a little flexible with my positioning, because some people might have said like, oh, Marshall Yanda, because he played a season at left guard. But then I was like, no, Marshall Yanda also played right tackle. He also played right guard. I can kind of move him around wherever I want him to be. So I picked Ben Grubbs as my left guard. He was with the Ravens for 5 seasons. Obviously, he priced himself out of Baltimore, but he was just, even to this day, he's still a really effective guard. He was durable. He played a lot, a bit of a mauler. Center, I have Matt Burke. Again, came towards the end of his career. He was with Minnesota for a long time. Came to Baltimore. He was another pivotal part of that 2012 Ravens Super Bowl run. Never missed a game in his 4 years in Baltimore. Was kind of like just that solid middle piece for that team. Right guard, I alluded to earlier, Marshall Yanda, one of my favorite Ravens of all time. Fun fact, in that 2016 season, he was dealing with, I can't remember what the shoulder injury was, but it was so bad that they were going to do off-season surgery on his right shoulder, because he couldn't, or whatever shoulder it was, he couldn't take the hits on that shoulder. And instead of taking the season-ending surgery, he was like, why don't you put me at left guard so that they don't hit that shoulder? And he played at, a Pro Bowl level on the other side. And I'm not really much of an offensive line expert. I go to a guy on Twitter. His name's Cole Jackson. He's fantastic to follow, whether you're a Ravens fan or not. He knows everything offensive line. I don't know how the difference works, but I can only assume it's pretty damn difficult to like play most of your career in one spot and then just be like, oh yeah, you need me to move over like just to the other side. Yeah, it's just the same. It's just mirrored. I don't think that's really easy. He also played a couple seasons at right tackle because they needed him there. Yeah, one of my favorite Ravens of all time. And this is where I'm probably going to take a little bit of flack from you, but I actually put Ronnie Stanley at my right tackle just because I wanted him on there. Like, he's in such a short amount of time, he's been so good for the Ravens. I think if I had to pick a true right tackle, a guy who's played right tackle, obviously a lot of people are going to do the recency bias of wanting Orlando Brown Jr. there, who was very good. But if I had to pick a true right tackle, I would actually pick Michael Orr. He put more time in with the Ravens. Again, was, just a solid part on that other side of the line when you needed to have him there. Really cool story to follow. Obviously, we talked about that with, having the movie The Blind Side made after him. So that is my starting 11. Where are you at?
Yeah. I wanted to let you talk there. So I made a couple notes. I kind of chuckled to myself when you were obviously deciding between Lamar and elite Sugar Shane Falco. I just kind of yeah, exactly. It brought me back to the episode that we had Sarah on, and having you guys choose between those two on the third down. So yeah, I'll never forget Sarah's reaction when I asked her to pick. So I definitely was laughing at that a little bit. With your lineup, I was fully expecting you to pick either 2 running backs or a running back and a fullback. So I'm not surprised at all that you did include LaRon McClain, which did he not? He played for the Chargers too, right? Was that after the Ravens?
Let me check. I'm not 100% sure on that one.
I for some reason.
Yeah, so he went to Kansas City for a year and then to San Diego for the last 2 years of his career.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
For some reason, neck roll. Did he have a neck roll?
Well, I mean, the good mark of a fullback is that their neck starts at the bottom of their earlobe and like goes to the outside of their shoulder. So trying to pick between him and Vontae Leach. Obviously, you probably remember Vontae Leach from his time with the Texans. Yeah. Like, this was just a mean-looking dude. I had a really hard time not picking Vontae Leach because he was such a massive part of what propelled Ray Rice to be so great. He was a huge part of what brought that team to a Super Bowl. But I went with LaRon McClain. Like I don't know if I've ever seen a fullback step up like that and almost put up 1,000 rushing yards season. So
totally. Couple other things. I'm surprised you didn't include Steve Smith.
Yeah, he's on you here.
I'm glad you didn't, because like you went with Anquan Bolden, and if you went with Steve Smith, I was going to give you a little bit of crap for including 2 transplants on your list. But hard to. I'm sure it was hard to exclude the guy.
Yeah, if we're going like favorite Ravens, yeah, it's hard to keep him off. I also thought about, when he came to Baltimore, he was 35 years old. In that first year, he put up over 1,000 yards when he was supposed to be this guy way over the hill. His second year, he puts up 670 yards and tears his Achilles at 36 years old. So he was on pace for well over 1,000 yards at 36 years old. Comes back from an Achilles that late and puts up 800 yards in just 14 games. Like, he was so fun to watch, like so incredibly fun to watch.
Yeah. And then the last comment I was going to make was just about, you talked about Marshall Yanda switching, which side of the line he was on. Yeah. And you're right. I mean, lots of guys have talked about this in the past where it's a muscle memory thing, right? Like their hips are used to turning a certain way. So I do get a bit of a kick out of the fact that you included Ronnie Stanley moving from the left side to the right side in your starting 11, just because you wanted them on there that bad.
I did want him on there that bad, but I thought I would include Michael Orr just because that was kind of a chintzy. And Michael Orr would probably be the other one.
Yeah. But no, I mean, you're not going to hear me say anything about your starting 11. I probably don't know enough about the Ravens to really say like, no, like you're wrong, Steve. Like, no, I think you did a really good starting 11.
First compliment you've given me in 22 episodes. I'll take it.
I know. God, I'm getting soft in my old age here.